at 9:15 p.m. on Friday, June 13, 1986. First National Bank of Shreveport purchased certain assets and assumed the liabilities of the former Bossier Bank and Trust Company. Throughout the next 2 days, the bank worked diligently to complete the transition of ownership smoothly and efficiently. At 9 a.m. on the following Monday, June 16th, the bank reopened for business as First National Bank. President and Chief Executive Officer Jerry Boughton will discuss the activities that led up to and culminated in this takeover of the failed bank.
Good morning. Friday, June the 13th was a day that this bank should remember forever. It was a day that some banking tragedy struck in the city of Shreveport and Bossier. Approximately 11 o'clock on Wednesday, June the 11th, Hugh Watson received a phone call informing us that some banks were facing some closures in our immediate area, inviting us to a bid meeting at the FDIC's offices in New Orleans at 10:30 on Thursday morning. Naturally, our advance strategy had indicated which banks in the area were weak and which ones might be in a situation that might be a failed bank situation. We had known that the Bossier Bank and Trust had had problems, and we thought, well, if it is the Bossier Bank and Trust, we might want to become involved for many, many reasons. However, we did not know, but at the same time, I left Hugh's office at 11 o'clock, and I said, I'm going back to my office, and between now and 11:30, I'm going to prepare a plan for us to acquire the Bossier Bank and Trust if we would be successful in our bidding process. I immediately put together a team that included some of the top management of this bank, and the team was a very small team, and I hope you understand that we could not involve very many people at that point. The information was very confidential, the information was very sensitive, and we had to take all precautions that there would be no leaks of this type of information from our staff at the bank here. At 11:30, my secretary began to call the top division heads in the bank, and the information went to them was, Mr. Boughton wants to see you at 12 o'clock in his office. Regardless of your lunch plans, you have to be there. Needless to say, I had 100% attendance at 12 o'clock. Joe Catnese, all of you know Joe. Joe, we were talking about making the signs, we were talking about making this and getting these type of supplies, and the information was anything that we cannot get on Saturday or Sunday, we have to obtain on between now and the close of business on Friday. Joe's immediate concern was, we're going to spend all this money and we may not need it. Finally determined that he would go at 5 o'clock and I would go at 8 o'clock. I had asked my team to prepare for me a written plan of how to open a $200 million bank on Monday morning. And I wanted it at 4 o'clock. I relented a little bit during the day, and I finally called the people back and I said, you have until 5. The next morning we had asked Scott Lawyer and Associates for Jackson, Mississippi to assist us in this. Scott's a consulting firm. He is an attorney, and he's former with the FDIC and has assisted some 12 banks now in endeavors of this. Scott and his associates met us in New Orleans about 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. We had a brief strategy meeting at that time and attended the bid session at 10. Things that we felt like was important was to, if it did go through, to hit the news media as soon as we could. At that time, I was scheduled to make a commercial in the city of Shreveport at noon the next day. I realized it was going to be impossible to do so, and our agency, Carter Williams, did a superb job. They arranged for a crew from Baton Rouge to come to the building, and by the time I got my makeup on, we got the script written, and in between the negotiations with the bidding team and working with the operational team, I went down and cut some commercials. They were not very good. We tried again. Most of you are aware that my family and I just returned from a couple of weeks in Germany, and I was still at that point having a little hard time overcoming the jet lag and coping with English.
Meine Damen und Herren, ich möchte nur ein paar Wörter zu Bossier Bank verreden. Eine Geld ist für behalten, eine Check ist guten, just der erste Nationalbank verstehen. Bekommt sie der großes Udis altes Organisational einer Mitstaat. Der Service ist besten at der Marum Neurobank. You know, weisten the Meister Dicer rauf in einer Bank. Now, the interesting thing about that commercial was that the crew in Baton Rouge didn't think anything was strange. They thought Bossier was in a foreign country. Now, here are a few more outtakes showing you a little bit of how well we were prepared in the case that anything could happen.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
I'd like to say a word to all former Bank of Commerce customers. Your money is safe and your checks are good because now First National Bank stands behind them. You are now part of the largest, strongest, oldest banking organization in the state, and we're ready to bring you the service and security that First National customers have enjoyed for more than a century. Your money is in good hands at your new bank, First National. You know, it's times like these that call for a bank like ours. A word to all former customers of Bossier Bank and the Bank of Commerce. Your money is safe and your checks are good because now First National Bank stands behind them.
That gives you an example of how prepared we were with the public relation aspect of the deal in the event that we were interested in one or both or either of the banks. During the middle of the night, it was determined early on that we had no interest in the Bank of Commerce.
I was here at noon or a little before noon on Friday, and the consultants came in, found our people were well prepared. They spent the afternoon making refinements on any of the strategies that they had thought about doing. Meanwhile, we then returned back to New Orleans about 12:30 on Thursday. This was on Friday, June the 13th. We had reports of what was happening in the city here, and we arrived at the FDIC offices approximately noon on Friday. We then had a meeting with the Comptroller of Currency's representatives at 12:30, in which time they approved the application for the branches. They approved the acquisition for us with the failed bank institution. At 1:30, we had scheduled a meeting with the FDIC, which is a mandatory meeting, to tell the FDIC what our strategy was in opening a failed bank on Monday morning. At this time, and this is where I begin to glow, because we went in, we had written plans of how we were to go about opening a $200 million bank on Monday morning. We had advertisements. Our agency had prepared advertisements. We had those mounted on poster board. We had television commercials in our possession, and we began to tell the FDIC what a good job we could do. The only disappointment at that time was about 5 minutes into the presentation, in which I was bragging on our people and what a good job they could do. The guy finally said, "We know you." At 10 o'clock, it was the lead-in story. At 10 o'clock, I received a call from New Orleans from the negotiating team telling me that the deal was about done. And I said, "Do you want to hear it on the television?"
Report is now waiting for a routine judge's okay. If and when they get it, Bossier Bank and Trust becomes the property of First National Bank. The FDIC came into town today and ordered BB&T and the Bank of Commerce in Shreveport to shut down because of bad loan practices. Most depositors were caught off guard. The parking lot of the Bossier Bank and Trust started filling early today. People had come to get their money. After handing out paychecks, some Bossier City employers had told workers to cash them then. For those who didn't listen or weren't told, 2 o'clock was too late.
Effective 2 o'clock today, I have closed the Bossier Bank and Trust Company in Bossier City and the Bank of Commerce in Shreveport.
The closing signs went up, and the doors only opened one way, out.
Can you go in? Closed till Monday. Oh, gracious.
People who didn't make it in time were worried and mad.
They notified us in time for us to get our money out ahead of time.
Leela Harrell went to Bossier Bank and Trust to pick up her Social Security money. Without it, she says it's going to be a long weekend. And it was no use running to the automatic tellers. They, too, were shut down. What's going to happen next? Well, First National Bank of Shreveport is the new owner of Bossier Bank and Trust. So for them, on Monday, everything's back to normal. But the FDIC is still trying to find a buyer for the Bank of Commerce. If they don't, the FDIC will step in again, this time to hand out money to depositors. However, customers may have to wait a while.
Well, they would probably have to wait until later in the week. In no case would they have to wait, say, until the following week.
These are the fourth and fifth bank failures in Louisiana this year. They follow the Bank of Dixie in Lake Providence in January. Also in January, First Progressive of Metairie. And in May, the First National Bank of Ruston. Is this a sign of things to come?
Banks are a reflection of the economic conditions. We at the Federal Deposit Insurance are here to make sure that depositors are in no way harmed by what may happen in the economy, circumstances beyond their control.
And again, the First National Bank of Shreveport is in the process of buying Bossier Bank and Trust. FDIC officials hope to have a buyer for the Bank of Commerce.
We received just outstanding comments throughout the whole business community, and naturally the press has been very favorable to us. This week, it's hard for me to return back to normal. There are so many people to thank for doing such a good job, and I can just assure you that our staff performed in a flawless manner. We think it was one of the smoothest transitions we've ever seen. The consulting team of Scott Lawyer and associates from Jackson, this being their 12th failed institution, have commented to me that they have never seen a team that went as smooth, or an acquisition that went as smooth as the one First National Bank did with the former Bossier Bank and Trust. I had no question. I knew that would be the answer from the very beginning. I'd like to say, I want to thank everybody, and I'd like to do it personally. Not only were those that were involved on Saturday, which we can't tell you exactly, but somewhere around 100 or so on Saturday and some on Sunday, were they involved in actual hands-on, but during last week, many of our officers had to work with a smaller staff than normal, and they had to pull a little extra load. So it's not only just the ones that actually physically went to Bossier, but it was throughout our whole system. Everybody pitched in. All of our 642 employees pitched in. They did a great job. Jim Blewett's been an excellent person. This was a decision that had to be made. It had to be made quickly, and I chose Jim and told him, and I feel like Jim didn't know exactly what to say at first, but he has no problem with saying things now. For that, I think that we could not have spent $5 million and received the image that we did. It was a situation we wanted to take care of. That was not our intent. It was a situation that we wanted to take care of. We didn't want things like this happen in our community. It was an opportunity for us, and we felt like that we could lend a lot of stability to the Bossier City area in this transaction. For us, on a personal basis, what does it represent to First National Bank? Naturally, it represents an entry into a market that we have physically been prohibited from in a physical location before. As you know, our advertising naturally covers the Bossier City area, and the Bossier City area have always known a First National Bank, but we've never been able to be physically present in the Bossier market until this. The effort during that weekend, beginning on Friday, June the 13th, is something that you should be pleased about. It's something that I'm happy about, and we hope that our new employees from Bossier Bank and Trust are pleased that we're there to assist them, and I think this is another example of First National showing its willingness to the community to take care of a situation that had to be taken care of. So with that, I just want to say thank you.